Okay, so chapter mantra 10. We can read the verse and continue and read the translation and then continue where we left off, just starting the purport. Anya devahur vidyaya.
Anya devahur vidyaya.
Nyadahur avidyaya.
Nyadahur
Iti shushrumadiranam.
Iti shushrunam dhiranam.
Yenastad vichachakshire. Okay. Is it ladies first or men first?
Yeah.
I let it last week, eh?
Okay, Narendra this week.
Anya devahur vidyaya.
Anya devaho vidyaya.
Nyadehur avidyaya.
Nyadahor avidyaya.
Iti shushruma dhiranam.
Iti shushrumadiranam.
Yenastad vichachakshare.
Yenastad vichachakshire. You're in the limelight now, Deepa. Come on.
Am I? Oh, okay. Anya devatur vidyaya
Anyado evaho vidyaya.
Nyadahur avidyaya
Nyadahor avidyaya.
Iti shushruma dhiranam
Iti shushrumadiranam.
Yenastad vichachakshire.
Yenastad vichachakshire. Okay, Narendra, do you want to read the translation, please?
The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of Nissan.
Okay, so the words here is vidya and avidya. So vidya and avidya. So vidya means knowledge. So knowledge means to, as I mentioned, because it starts off in the purport quoting from the 13th chapter, text 8 to 12. So it mentions there that real knowledge is those things that help to get us out of the material world. So that's real knowledge to help us get liberated, because why do we want to get out of the material world? Who knows? Or do we want to get out of the material world? And if so, why?
Because we don't belong to the material world. We're spirit souls, yeah.
Yeah, it's Prabhupada explains the soul being in the material world is an incompatible situation, because the spirit and matter is like fundamentally opposite. Matter is temporary, spirit is eternal. Matter is full of ignorance, spirit is conscious. Matter is full of suffering, and the spirit is full of joy and ananda, bliss. So it's Sat Chit Ananda, that's the soul's nature. Sat Chit Ananda. And the material nature, what's that? Asat, Achit, Nirananda. Ananda means bliss. Nirananda means opposite, means suffering. So it's explained also, analogy, that we're like a fish out of water. If you take a fish is a natural environment, is in the water. If you take it out of the water, even if you give it a BMW and the latest mobile phone and a fridge and a TV and everything, will it be happy? No, it'll be suffering. In fact, it'll die within a few minutes, so because it needs that environment. So also the soul's nature it belongs in the spiritual world, not here. This is like a kind of imprisonment for the soul being here. You're not going to be happy in a prison because the material world, right? I mean, the person controlling the material world is Durga. Durga means fort. So it means it's a prison. She's the boss of the prison, Durga. So, and one of her names is Rudrani. Her husband's Rudra, and her name is Rudrani. You know the meaning of Rudra? Rudrani?
Rudra means, oh, okay. Shankar Bhagwan is called Rudra. I mean, it's about.
He has many names. Shiva. Shiva has many names.
Shiva, yeah.
Shankar,
So,
Rudra.
Okay.
Yeah, so many names.
Something.
But what's the meaning of Rudra? It's the
But
anger or something.
that person that makes others cry.
Okay.
Ah,
Make them angry or make them okay.
Not angry. They make them cry.
Right.
Means it
Oh,
means
Rudra. Yes. Yeah. Rudra.
they are punishing us because we've gone against God. We've rebelled against God. Just like the in charge of the prison. What's his job? And it's not a nice job, but someone has to do it, right? I mean, we're not hassling Shiva. He's put his hand up for the job no one else wants to do. Punish the convicts. So I mean, he himself is a devotee. He's not a convict. He's not a prisoner, but he's in charge of the prison. Durga, his wife, like that, him, like that. So it's an unpleasant job, but someone has to do it. And their job is to punish those that want to rebel against God and think that they're God. So this is the situation in the material world. So real knowledge means how to get out of the prison, That's real knowledge, how to get out of the prison, how to get back to being a free citizen. We want to get back to being a free citizen in the spiritual world, like that, like Narada Muni. He's completely free. He can go anywhere and everywhere. And so where it says the culture of nescience or avidya, that means the cultivation of material knowledge. So avidya actually means, material knowledge, which is basically the study of matter. And why do we want to study matter? Because we're trying to figure out how to exploit it, how to enjoy it. Why do we spend so much time being educated about matter? Because we want to understand matter for the purpose of exploiting it and enjoying it, and like you said, controlling it, being the proprietor of it. We want to understand what we're the proprietor of, right? And next one, right? We want to be the proprietor of the moon. We've stuffed it up here, so let's become the proprietor of the moon or the Mars. Let's go to Mars and be the proprietor. Let's get knowledge about Mars. Now we're sending out the spaceships so we can get more knowledge about Mars. We want to get knowledge about Mars so we can go and live there and exploit, because we've got all the natural resources there to enjoy too, right? Trillions of dollars worth of precious metals or whatever like that. We can make money out of that. We can make money out of Mars or the moon or whatever like that. We think like this. So this is what we call knowledge, which is actually avidya. Because this so-called, knowledge, material knowledge, is actually entangling us more in this life of asat, achit, nirananda, more this temporary life of, ignorance and misery. So this is what it's meaning here. So this verse is saying you'll get one result from cultivating knowledge, and you'll get a different result from cultivating material knowledge, which is basically ignorance, because avidya means ignorance. So, and Prabhupada's going to explain it more in the purport, so we won't say too much. So we read in this 18 points from the Bhagavad Gita, we read the first 3. So the first one was humility, and giving respect to others, and not pose himself as a religion is simply for name and fame, so pride, and being without pride, prideless, and not causing anxiety for others, to not causing anxiety to others. Yeah. So this is real knowledge. being humble, giving respect to others. Perfect gentleman, Prabhupada said, we explained about that. And not pose as himself perfect religionist, like that. Which is, and like I said in the Bhagavad Gita, because Prabhupada's expanding on what's given in the Bhagavad Gita in a slightly different way. In the Bhagavad Gita, the number one is humility, which he said here is be a perfect gentleman and give proper respect. And then number two there, it says prideless, without pride. So here he's saying this is the same thing, but with a slightly different angle looking at it. Because that's pride, right? And if we're proud, we want a name and fame for ourselves, right? We want people to adore us and get and some recognition, some adoration, some distinction. So this is because pride is there. Why do we want these things? Why do we want to become famous or popular or get some distinction or some credit? Because we're proud. But real knowledge means to not be proud. That we should be humble and not proud. So, and of course, we mentioned how when we are proud, that follows on, and that we hurt others. A proud person is always creating harm for others. So, and that's the third one. We should not be a source of anxiety. So, if we follow real knowledge and be humble and without pride, then there won't be any of this, causing anxiety for others. Ahimsa, which in the Bhagavad Gita, the third point mentioned is ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-violence. So Prabhupada's giving a purport here on non-violence as not be a source of anxiety to others. Okay, so number 4, Deepa.
One should learn forbearance even in the face of provocation from others.
Okay, so in the Bhagavad Gita, this is called kshantir. Kshantir means tolerance. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it says tolerance. So here, Prabhupada's explaining tolerance more in this way, that it means one should learn forbearance. So forbearance means tolerance. Even, to bear, basically forbearance. So to bear, like, suffering or difficulty, you got to just bear it. You don't try to avoid it. When it comes to you or counteract it or whatever, you just accept it. You just bear the whatever the suffering comes, you just accept it, you just tolerate it. And how do you do that? I mean, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains how we can tolerate in the 2nd chapter, text number 14, very famous verse, 2:14. You can check that out sometime. Matra spashasta kunteya sitasnasa kudukuda. That we can tolerate when we understand that the happiness and distress of the material world is temporary. Then it becomes easier to tolerate. Even like all this COVID stuff, right? Oh, crazy. But we understand it had a beginning. COVID had a beginning, right? COVID-19, right? So it started in 2019, and it'll have an end also. So all these things have a beginning and an end. They're not eternal. So neither suffering is eternal, and unfortunately, and I mean, unfortunately, also the happiness is not eternal. So we shouldn't be attached to that. Also, we should tolerate. In that sense, you also have to tolerate the happiness. It means don't get swept up by that. Also, don't get swept up by the suffering. Oh, this is terrible, COVID, or France is pulling out, or whatever. We get so, by the suffering, we get so excited and everything. But also with the happiness. Oh, I won lotto. I'm a millionaire. Wow, fantastic. You don't get excited by either side, because dualities, right? The world of dualities. So one side is happiness, one side is suffering. But neither is permanent. So an attachment to both is going to be a cause of anxiety and fear and lamentation and so forth. So we don't focus on either one. And we know they're just going to pass. So the example given there in 2:14 is just like the summer and winter seasons. See to snow. I mean, sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold. And just like now, it's winter time is just finishing. So it was very cold, but we didn't get too depressed about winter because we know it's going to end and spring is going to come and it's going to get warm. And now spring is coming. Is getting warmer there in Australia?
It's kind of touch and go.
Touch and go. It's just starting. But we know we can see we're getting out of the cold season. So, nothing to worry about, And then it'll be too hot, right? It'll be 40, 45 degrees there in summer. But you don't worry about it because well, it's going to end and it's going to get nice and cool soon when autumn comes. So in that way, it becomes easier to tolerate when we understand that these things are temporary. And also that neither the heat nor the cold affects the soul. What does heat and cold affect?
The body.
Only the body. And are we the body? No, we're not the body. So therefore, you don't put too much emphasis on it. The problem comes when we think we are the body.
Mm.
Then it becomes like, all important when it's too hot or it's too cold or like that, when it's COVID is here or whatever like that, then it becomes just the all in all, but that's ignorance. So real knowledge is, when we understand that we're the soul and we understand that everything in the material is temporary, then tolerance becomes part of your life. Prabhupada said, the real glory of the real, I can't remember exactly how he put it, but basically the real good thing about India, or like glory of India, is tolerance. That people have been taught this culture of tolerance. Not getting too wound up. That the Mughals attacked India, and then the British attacked India, and the people just very tolerant. And these invaders were so abusive, exploiting and everything, and the people just tolerated. Why? Because they knew, it's their karma and, it's all temporary and we're not the body anyway. And, we're going to get moksha and mukti, so who cares? Like that. So many things, the knowledge they had, it's because of the knowledge they had that they were able to be so tolerant. Any other place that had been through so many problems as India with invaders and that, they would have gone crazy. Isn't it? They would have gone crazy. But the people of India were so tolerant.
India, I think, has never attacked anyone.
Yeah, never attacked anyone. So that's because of that culture of knowledge. They had that knowledge. It's my destiny to have this amount of wealth and everything. Why am I going to take someone else's? If I take someone else's, I'm going to get bad karma and get punished and come back in a more worse situation. So I'm not going to do that. So like that, they had all this knowledge. So someone attacks me, I don't get too disturbed, and I'm not going to attack anyone else. So why they did like that is because of their knowledge. Of course, unfortunately, now India is imitating the West and giving up their culture of knowledge. And I'm not so sure they're so tolerant anymore either.
That's right.
I don't think so. It doesn't look like it by some things that happen there. But they used to be very tolerant. And because they had a higher purpose, and to achieve their higher purpose of moksha, to get liberated, they're prepared to undergo some suffering, voluntarily. And that's called tapasya. And that's especially what Prabhupada was talking about, was tapasya means austerity. And, that means voluntarily accepting suffering. That you're going to accept suffering voluntarily and you're going to tolerate the suffering. So that he said was the real glory of Indian culture. there was their high level of austerity and undergoing, and tolerating suffering. Because why they tolerated suffering was because they had that higher purpose, and to achieve it, they're prepared to go through whatever difficulties are required. And examples given is like in Kumbh Mela. Kumbh Mela, massive festival, biggest festival in the world. Millions of people go there from mainly all over India, and to bathe in the Triveni. Triveni means three rivers coming together. And it's said at that auspicious time, then some amrit, some nectar, is coming there, and whoever takes bath at that time will not take birth again in the material world. They're going to get moksha. So millions of people go there for that purpose. They want to get liberated. But is it easy? Is it comfortable? No. Do they have a proper accommodation there? No. They stay, if they're lucky, they in a tent, probably with 10 other people sleeping on top of them. And the food may not be probably what you want, because there's millions of people also lined up for food. And it's in the middle of winter. It's like freezing cold. And when is the auspicious time to take a bath? Probably at like 5 o'clock in the morning, something like that, 6 o'clock in the morning. It's like dark, and you got to go there just in a gamsha, which means like a towel around you, and the Naga Babas and all that, they're naked, so they don't even have any clothes, so it's like freezing cold. You're not going there with your thermal clothes on and stuff, so it's like freezing cold, but they don't care, because they know they're not the body, and they know the purpose of life is to get liberated. They don't come back again and finish the suffering, and they tolerate so much suffering, and they'll travel for thousands. Most of those people, they walk there from the Himalayas, and that they walk there, or whatever, but even if they did take a train or whatever like that, but it's austere, as you know, in India, in the trains, you're all packed up there and everything. You have to, it's so miserable. I mean, I've traveled in the trains and that, you're all packed up. Sometimes you see pictures of people on top of the train, on the side of the train, on the front of the train, but they don't care. What's that?
Hang out of the train too.
Hanging out of the train, yeah. And they tolerate that because they have a higher purpose. Is to get liberated, is to go back to Godhead. But of course, if you don't have that higher purpose, then you're not going to be able to tolerate. Then even a little pinprick, and you can't tolerate it. You can't tolerate it. So I had experienced this situation once. I was distributing books. It was early in the night, many years ago, when I was a brahmachari, and a dog bit me and on the leg, and it was far out what happened. It's just like I had this I went in this, it was like a sort of out of the body kind of experience, where I realized I was just watching the body, that I was just watching this injured body, hobbling down the street, and I didn't feel anything. I was just like a witness. I felt like I was just an observer. I was a witness to what had happened to the body. And I really came very clearly to me at that time that I wasn't the body, and that we're just the observer, and the body was separate. And then also another very interesting thing happened was that the devotee that was supposed to pick me up about an hour later, he came within 5 minutes of me getting bitten. And we didn't have mobiles at that time. This was 20 years ago. So we didn't have mobiles. So I asked him when we were driving to the hospital, then why did you come? Because you weren't supposed to come for like another hour. He said, a voice within me said, Abai's in trouble, go and find Abai.
Wow.
So that was my good friend. That was our good friend, the Paramatma, the super soul.
Mm.
who's within my heart and within my friend's heart. Luckily, and they, you know, it's the one super soul present everywhere, so knows everything. Kavim Puranam Manushashitaram, that the Lord is one who is Kavi, means he knows everything. Puranam, he's the oldest person. Anushashitaram means he is the controller. Like that's a beautiful, one of my favorite verses in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, text 7. Very wonderful verse. So, yeah, like that, if we have this knowledge, then all these things don't affect us very much, and you can easily tolerate them, no problem. No problem. But if you're in ignorance, if you don't have this knowledge, if you think you're the body, you'd have no consciousness of God, like that, then you feel every little thing you can't tolerate. You go crazy. And that's why so many people take liquor.
Yeah,
Because they
because
can't tolerate. Huh?
they think that they are responsible for everything. So you take everything onto you. That's like, creating a lot of anxiety and
Burden.
yeah, that's right.
In Sanskrit, it's called baram. Baram means heavy weight, burden, like on your shoulders. So, and that's why people take so much intoxication, just to help them forget the suffering, and that's just too much to bear. They can't bear it, for no forbearance. So, and then they just want to solve that by more ignorance. But of course, more ignorance doesn't solve ignorance. It just makes the ignorance even worse. So it just means you don't even know that you're suffering. You don't even know that you're suffering. But you're suffering, but you don't know that you're suffering. And that is tragic, so
There's
I
so
mean, we
much.
know, I mean, we understand, with knowledge, we know that we're suffering. We know that we're suffering, but we also, which is, you could say negative, but we have a positive thing, and then we know the solution to the suffering. That's the thing. But in ignorance means suffering. Ignorance means suffering. But you don't even know, when you're in ignorance, you don't even know that you're suffering, and you don't know the solution to the suffering. So you just keep suffering. And everything you do, because everything you do in ignorance means more ignorance. So that means you increasing the suffering. So, because like taking intoxication is a sinful activity, right? So, and then you take intoxication to forget your suffering, but that's a sinful activity, bad karma. So that will just mean why do we suffer is because of bad karma. So you're going to get more suffering like that. So it's just everything we do in ignorance just increases the suffering even more. And they think that that's advancement, that we've forgotten that we're suffering. No, but that's what kind of advancements that I'm not aware. When I'm at the pub, I'm not suffering, and we think that's progress. That we have lots of liquor shops, and we can even go to the supermarket now and get liquor. That's advancement. That's progress. It's more accessible. You can even order it online. You can even get it during lockdown, right? It's an essential item, right? Isn't that crazy? It's like an essential item. You can even get it in a lockdown. You can get it from the liquor shop. It's so ridiculous. And you can just order, it'll come right to your door. But that's advancement. Our society is so advanced. You can't do that in India. You can do that in Australia or New Zealand. You can get liquor coming right to your door. But that's just ignorance. Oh, Jayanti's saying you can do it in India now too. So they've also advanced. You can get it 24/7 liquor, 24/7. That's advancement. You had to make it yourself 100 years ago. Now you can just get it as much as you want, whenever you want. Actually, one of the locals, I went to help him lift. He's like crippled. Probably because of his bad karma, due to being intoxicated all the time. Anyway, I tried to help him out. I saw him struggling trying to lift a car battery with one hand, and he had the crutches in the other hand. I felt sorry for him. And so I lifted it to where he stayed, which is in a caravan in the bush, and it's just like completely Tomasic, like stinking beer cans everywhere, bottles everywhere, just the personification of tamaguna, the mode of ignorance, and he's not aware, most of the time probably that he's suffering. But from my point of view and knowledge, I can see that he's suffering too much, and he keeps himself in that condition so that he can forget that he's suffering because he can't tolerate it and he sees no way out. So this is the sad state of the mode of ignorance. So we definitely don't want to culture ignorance or material knowledge, and because it's very miserable. Yeah, so this is knowledge, that one should be very tolerant. And would anyone like to say anything about this point of tolerance?
Yeah, I think we are less tolerant nowadays, I guess. Tolerance is going down, I think. Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's because that, this material knowledge is going up. That material knowledge is going up, which means ignorance is going up, means, bodily consciousness. See, the more we become bodily conscious, then means tolerance will go down. And the more we're spiritually conscious or Krishna conscious means the tolerance will go up. So this is the thing. So, but the good news is we do have some free choice, so we can change that. We can change that.
So much of ignorance, so much, and it's wrapped up so much in ego and even discrimination, because I'm part of I'm taking a coaching course. I'm doing a course in coaching, and there's a Facebook group like the Coaching Institute, and one of the members actually had a posting recently. She said, so does anyone know what our purpose is? Why are we here? What is this life about? Something like that. She had a posting, and so there were lots of comments, and all silly things that people were talking about. And I said, actually, Carrie, because I know this lady who posted that, and I said, Carrie, the Vedas answers all of this. I just had a comment like this. But no one said anything about that. It's like even they don't want to know, or there is so much of, yeah, I don't know what to call it, but they don't. Just because I said, I don't know whether it's because the Vedas coming from a India kind of thing, and how could they know, have answers to this when the West doesn't, type of thing. And yeah, so there's very selective acceptance of knowledge. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. And today, actually, another friend of mine said something about this COVID, and that in India and China, they've pretty much, a lot of places are COVID free, or and so there was this comment like in a chat group, an ex-colleague of mine, and she said, soon, I mean, India and China will be COVID free, and here the numbers are going up, and we're just not following their example.
Once again, because we're too proud, we think we're better than them, so how can we follow what they're doing, so then it shows up that we're not better. So that's the thing. Even though they may have the solution to this particular problem, but people are too proud in the West to follow that. One guy just sent me a message today saying they're using a drug called ivermectin.
Yeah, that's right.
And he said Delhi is 97% free of COVID now because they're using this ivermectin. They've pretty much wiped it out. But of course, the West will not take help from that good example. They'll keep probably going down the line of vaccines just because it makes money for a few people, so.
Uttar Pradesh is 100% COVID free. They've just announced in Uttar Pradesh. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, real knowledge versus ignorance. Okay. Narendra, number 5.
One should learn to avoid duplicity in his dealings with others.
Yeah, so this is very important aspect of knowledge. You all know what duplicity means? How would you explain duplicity?
Fooled, is it?
Yeah, trying to fool other people, duplicitous behavior. Then what's inside you and what's outside is different. It's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Then outside you might be talking all friendly, everything, but inside is I want to kill this guy. I'm going to stab him in the back as soon as I get the opportunity. But externally it's all very nice and everything like that. So very duplicitous means not honest, straightforward behavior, but dishonest, crooked behavior like that. That's duplicitous. So, having, as they say, an ulterior motive, having an ulterior motive. So you don't really just want to serve the person or whatever, but you want to get something from them. You're acting like you're serving them or whatever, but you just want to get something from them so you can exploit them, right? Because that's the basic thing, is exploiting, enjoying. So like that. So, but real knowledge is not to be like that. We should be very straightforward, very simple, very honest, non-duplicitous. But in the culture of nescience is very duplicitous, full of duplicity, and we see that in the world's dealings, isn't it? I mean, even this whole COVID thing is so much duplicitousness. Oh my God, it's just so much crooked, cheating, lying. Just for the motive of making profit and money, even out of people's suffering and everything like that. It's like that there's a joke about it's not pandemic, it's plandemic, and so many things. It's just so much scheming and everything, very complicated. And so this is the culture of ignorance or material knowledge. Is always scheming, making plans, trying to exploit people, pretending that you're Mr. Nice Guy. Hey, I love you all. You're my friends and everything. But inside, I just can't wait to kill you all so I can, take everything from you. I can't wait for you to die so I can take your money and everything. But externally, I love you and everything like that. So this is very important to avoid this if we want to progress in spiritual life. And ultimately, by this cheating behavior, we cheat ourselves, because we might cheat each other in the material world, but there's one person that we can't cheat. Who's that?
Paramatma is the God inside you, isn't it?
Yeah, God's inside us. He knows everything about
He's
us, right?
witness of everything you're doing. So, yeah.
He's a witness of everything. And it's mentioned there are other witnesses too. In the daytime, Suryadev is witnessing the sun. Everything that's done under the presence of the sun he's a witness. At the nighttime, the moon, Chandradev is watching you at night. Suryadev is watching you in the daytime. Then in front of a fire, right when the fire, Agni is watching you in front of the fire, like that. So of course Paramatma is there. So there's so many witnesses, so many to our different actions. So if you cheat and do all these things, then you're going to be punished, whether it's in this life or in the next life. I mean, a lot of these people that hurting other people like that, they're not going to see the light of the day for a long, long, long time after this life. They're not going to see the light of the day. They're going to go down, down, down. And you can read about that in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna pushes them down to the lowest forms of life. Means like a worm in stool somewhere, or some bug, under the ground, or stuck in some tree somewhere like that. Their soul is going to go down, 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 down. And that's after. some temporary punishment in a hellish planet, you know, and there's not one hell like what Christianity says there's one. There's many actually, and they're different hells have different punishments for different crimes. So, but unlike Christianity, fortunately, it's not eternal damnation. That's not true. That it's some temporary punishment only. So after some temporary punishment, and they're called Naraka lokas, so hellish planet. They're at the bottom of the universe, under the 14 planetary systems. There are different Naraka lokas, and Yamaraj, he's the in charge of the Naraka lokas, and so there's some temporary punishment there, and he's preparing that soul's consciousness for its next body. So if they're going to go from a human form into the form of some bug and stool or whatever, then you can't go straight from a human body to a bug and stool. You're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to handle that transition as too big a transition. So they prepare you for the transition in the hellish planet. Like for example, if you're going to take birth as a pig or something like that eats stool or whatever, then the Yamadutas force feed the person's stool there in the Naraka till he gets to the point where he becomes conditioned to it and he can accept it. He just likes it. So then when you get your pig body, you like eating stool. like the dog, like I've seen my dog, he eats anything. It's just disgusting. The most rotten thing, he'll eat it. So, you know, like if you're going from a human body to like a dog's body or whatever, first of all, you got to go to Naraka and they prepare you for eating that stuff. And so this is such a, you know, such a great system for rectifying the soul, you know. And once again, that's part of knowledge, is you have to know about that. You know, if you act duplicitously and you hurt other people, mate, you're gonna get it. You're not going to escape. You know, you're going to be held accountable. You are responsible. You know, you're a human being. You know right from wrong. You're still doing wrong. You're going to pay the price, mate. You know, so this is knowledge, to know these things. You know, to not be aware of that, that's ignorance. Of course, a person cultivating material knowledge saying, oh, that's all mythology. This is superstition. There's no such place as hell. There's only one life. You're free to do whatever you like. That's why I was taught at school. You're not responsible. You're not going to be held accountable. There's no one watching over you, no one controlling you. You can do whatever you like. As long as you follow the laws of, you know, material society. But there's no universal laws. There's no God in control. There's no karma. You like that, you know. So, and we think we're all alone and no one knows what we're doing, you know. So we could think we can get away with murder, but you can't. You can't. Even you murder someone, you might escape from the man-made laws, but you're not going to escape from God's laws. Even if the police don't catch us for whatever crimes we do, but Yamaraj, you can't escape from him. He's going to get you, and like that. And the good news is, you know, once you take to the path of knowledge, as soon as you take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender to Him, He lets you off the hook for all of it. Because we all did so much out of ignorance, right? And if we can't escape that, I mean, how are we going to get out of the world? If I'm going to, due to what I did earlier in this life, which I'm ashamed to think about, even talk about what I did earlier in this life, then I'm going to be taking birth as probably a few lives as a pig, and then a few lives as dogs, and everything like that. But Krishna says, you know, if you surrender to Him, then Savadama Pritchajya Mamikam Sharanam Vrajaham Tvam Savapopa Byo Mokshya Shami Mashucha, 1866, that if we surrender to Him in the Bhagavad Gita, then he says, I'll deliver you from all your sinful reactions. So that's in the process of knowledge too, that, you know, that your slate, all your slate of when you were duplicitous and everything, and when you were causing anxiety to others and proud and full of ego and everything, then Krishna clears that slate off. As long as from this point, you know, you try your best to keep a clean slate. And every now and again, if you do slip up, but I mean, as long as you're not doing it on purpose, you know, I mean, due to past bad habits, I mean, you know, sometimes it's hard to get free of the conditioning immediately. So sometimes we slip up. Like I mentioned on Thursday, sometimes, you know, something happens to me and a swear word comes out of my mouth, you know, but that's just because of my past conditioning, because I was brought up with, you know, just swearing was just normal, you know, and then now I know it's not good. And but sometimes it just comes out, like if I, you know, bang my hand with a heavy object or something, or cut myself or whatever, you know, so it just comes out. But then, you know, I don't hang on to that thought. I just, okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Then you just overwrite it, you know, like that, and because you know it's not real, that this is just illusory, it's just ignorant. So you don't take it to heart or anything. And as long as we've got a material body, I mean, sometimes these different, you know, urges from the past and bad habits and that may pop up, but that's not a serious obstacle. As long as you don't purposefully, consciously, you know, do ignorant things, and you don't think that, oh, I'm gonna do something really wicked and bad, and then I'm gonna counteract it by chanting Hare Krishna, because that's how it works. No, it doesn't work like that. You can't consciously think, I'll, you know, do this bad deed and then counteract it by doing a good thing like chanting Hare Krishna or whatever. And you know, if you do it purposefully like that, that's duplicitous. You know, that's like you're trying to cheat. You're trying to cheat the system. Okay, yeah, Hare Krishna destroys all sins, so I'll use that to counteract my sinful acts that I'm doing, you know, now that I have that knowledge. But you can't cheat Krishna. He knows, you know. So ultimately, like in the Bhagavad Gita, and there's one verse there saying that he's the greatest cheater. That Krishna's saying, you know, that he's the greatest cheater, meaning that, you know, that if you want to try to cheat Krishna, but he's going to cheat you, so you're not going to win, you know, you're going to lose, because, you know, no one's stronger than him, no one's more beautiful than him, but also no one's more angry than him, no one's more, you know, greater at cheating than him. You know, he's every side, he's the greatest. But of course, you know, whatever he does is good for us. So like, for example, if he's angry with us and he chops your head off with a Sudarshan chakra, like he did 5,000 years ago with Shishupal, he cut his head off, then he got liberated. So if Krishna taps you on the head with his Kamala lotus, you're liberated.
Oh.
And if he severs your head with a Sudarshan, you're liberated. So that's what it means, Advaita. He's absolute. So he's all good.
Mm.
If he gives you a hug, you're liberated.
Oh.
If he squashes you, you're liberated. You know what I'm
And
saying?
even if you're suffering in this world, that is also good, because he's trying to turn you into, look for the right knowledge. Why are you suffering?
Yeah, that's
Then-
mercy. A devotee sees it's mercy. A devotee sees any suffering. It's said the devotee's reaction to suffering is that I deserve more or worse due to my past bad karma that I did, not that anyone else did. The past bad karma I did, I deserve more or worse. But Krishna's so kind that he's minimized it. I deserve so much, but he's just minimized it. That's the way the devotee sees. That's the way a devotee sees suffering. And happiness, how does he see happiness? I don't deserve this happiness, but Krishna is so kind that he's given me this happiness. I don't deserve it. So happiness, he thinks I don't deserve it. So it means he's always grateful for whatever happiness he gets. He's very grateful. And for whatever suffering he gets, he thinks I deserve it. Whereas in material knowledge, any happiness we get, we think, I deserve it. I did it. I did it. And any suffering we get, we think, I don't deserve this. I'm too good. It's because of him. So and on both sides, we're not happy. On both sides, So it's having that knowledge. Then you deal with everything properly. You deal with happiness properly. You deal with suffering properly, and you never try to cheat, be duplicitous like that. Very honest. And it's said that Prabhupada mentions one time a real Brahmana. Like Brahmana means like mode of goodness, sattva guna, and this is the quality of a Brahmana also. Means this arjavam, means simplicity, honesty. Prabhupada mentions, if you ask a real Brahmana how much money do you have in your bank account, he will tell you, like really, what he has in the bank to the last rupee, like that. He's not going to hide anything. There's nothing to hide. Duplicitous means you're hiding stuff also. There's a lot of pretense, and you're a pretender. So there's a lot of pretense, a lot of hiding. But like in a real Brahmana, he's so simple. You whatever you ask him, he'll just tell you the truth, because that's his culture is a culture of satyam, truthfulness, and arjavam, simplicity, honesty, like these kind of things. And to us, it might seem, well, he's just a crazy guy. Who's going to do that? I'm not going to tell the truth to everyone. But the thing is, that from their point of view, they've got nothing to hide, and they don't really care about how much money they have in the bank, and because they are a Brahmana, they probably don't have much money in the bank anyway, so there's nothing to worry about, because a Brahmana accepts charity, but they also give charity, and whatever they don't need, if they have more than what they need, they're going to give it away. So there's a saying that if you give a Brahmana today $1 million today, he's gonna be poor tomorrow, because he's going to distribute it. Like there's a beautiful old movie from the 1920s or 30s about Tukaram. I don't know if you've seen the movie on Tukaram. It's a black and white Marathi movie. I highly recommend, not that I don't normally recommend many movies on TV or whatever, but this is one movie I do recommend. Look up this one on YouTube, Tukaram. It's a black and white one. It's got English subtitles, and it's amazing, the life of Tukaram. So he was around about the same time as Lord Chaitanya 500 years ago, and he was preaching, I think, in Maharashtra. And he was so poor, and then he was given a whole heap of sugar cane one time, and he ended up giving it away to all the young kids. Even though he himself, his own family, didn't have much. Another time, he given a whole lot of, and he just distributed it all. Actually, his wife was really peeved off both times, but that was his nature. He just, whatever more than what they need, they just distribute it, and they just depend on God, that God will send me something that I can live tomorrow. It means they don't store, they don't hoard. They just accept whatever little bit they need for today and don't worry about tomorrow. They have faith that God will provide for me, tomorrow and every day. I don't need to keep for tomorrow anything, because God will arrange something for me according to my karma. Like that, I don't want to go on too much, already over time. But I find this subject very fascinating. Different this process of knowledge is very interesting.
I think it's more practical, in terms
Yes,
of.
very practical. This is real education. This is what we should be teaching in every school on the planet. This is what I wish I was learning from 5 years old, rather than just learning, material stuff, that we, evolved from monkeys and started from a big bang. I wish I'd learned this stuff to be tolerant and to be truthful and humble and everything. Because I became so arrogant through my material knowledge. And then, but if I so much. But yeah, like I say, that that through that suffering, so that's another way. If you don't learn to be humble in school, then it's called what do they call it? The what do they call the life of hard knocks? What is it? Something of the school of hard knocks, isn't it? If you don't learn it at school to be humble, then you can learn it out in the world, through getting knocked around, beaten around by Maya, like that. So.
Yeah, we should be going for so-called knowledge, material knowledge. It should be. I mean, this is the fundamental. I think that's world would be so nice if we had that, in the schools, basically.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, they can teach ABCD and 1 + 2 = 3 and all that, but don't need much more than that to read and write and stuff, and and to count and everything. And then extra than that, they should be teaching this. And even a lot of modern day teachers are starting to get onto this, what they call value education. So we should be educating the kids in values, that this is values, humility, tolerance, non-violence. These are values, not just teaching, about material elements, material, how to exploit material energy and how to make profit and, all these kind of things, how to control all these things, but more about, what are proper values to have, more about morals and what do they call it, ethics, to be ethical, what's right, basically what's right from wrong. It's right to be non-violent, it's wrong to be violent. It's right to tell the truth, it's wrong to lie. This is what they should be teaching, as ethics and values and morals and that. Now it's all out the window, immorality and everything. Now the school kids, beat up the teachers, and some in America, they take a gun, and if they don't like the teacher, shoot the teacher. So it's the kids that bad. It's like there's no kind of standard values. It's whatever you want to make it. If you value, killing, raping, pillaging, lying, then that's great for you, then do that, So there's no standard anymore. No standard anymore. So Prabhupada's idea was to create a revolution in society, to re-educate society, and these real values, these eternal values. It's called Sanatana Dharma, right? Sanatana means eternal. It doesn't change. So these are universal, eternal, principles, universal principles. So Prabhupada was a real revolutionary. He really, that was his plan. And I mean, the ISKCON, Krishna Conscious Movement, was spreading like anything when he was present on the planet, especially. It still is, but when he was present, some politicians around the world were getting scared of ISKCON. There was some news articles that if this Hare Krishna movement keeps spreading the way it is, it's going to take over the world governments within a decade. They were saying, there was articles like that in the newspaper. That within a decade, what's that?
They should have been happy about that. It would have made such a big difference to the way the world had turned out.
Yeah, but because they're cultivating material knowledge and ignorance, they don't think that's progress. That become spiritual people. And But yeah, he was a real he was thinking really big. He was thinking, make the whole world Krishna conscious. And
Yeah.
I mean, he did amazingly. I mean, Krishna conscious now is in Africa and Russia and all over the world, and right down here in the southernmost New Zealand. Krishna consciousness.
Down under.
So yeah, but this is what we should be, educate ourselves in it and then teach it to others. This is they're talking about responsibility and the human being. This is our responsibility to educate, to be educated in these spiritual values and then teach it to others, because once you get these spiritual values, you're out of here. You're going to go back to Godhead, moksha. So basically everything's closed up, everything's finished. I don't have anything more to do except for one thing. If you're going to get liberated, I mean, what else do you have to do? What's in your to-do list? It's finished. You're going back to Godhead. You're going to get liberated. After, when this body dies, you don't take birth again. Okay, so then I might as well sleep. No, you don't go to sleep, because you have a lot of work to do, and that's to help other people.
Mm.
Once you become Krishna conscious, that's the only thing left.
Mm.
What other important things are there to do? You're going to go to heavenly planets? You have to work towards that? No. Going back to God is more than that. You're gonna work towards merging in the Brahman? No. Going back to God is more than that. You're gonna work towards becoming CEO of some company in Microsoft? No. Going back to Godhead is like unlimitedly more than that. You're gonna work towards, fabulous riches, beautiful women. If you go back to Godhead, the houses are made of jewels. What you're walking on is jewels. So is there anything to work towards money here?
No.
Riches. What are the riches here? Even now I heard talk, they're going to remove paper money soon. They're going to make it all digital. So already what we have now is only some paper, and even soon you won't even have paper. It's just going to be on the screen. It means there's nothing. You don't have it. There's no wealth.
But
Before there was something physical. It was like gold. It was called the gold standard. That's like you have something at least that's tangible. But now it's becoming, the intrinsic value of our wealth is becoming, reduced. And that's like toilet paper with something printed on it. And soon it won't even be that. It's even less than that. It's just on a screen. And I don't know what happens if your screen crashes. Maybe all your money will be deleted if the website crashes or whatever. So that's the thing. When you realize, I'm inheriting the spiritual world, which is unlimited treasures of jewels and beautiful women you can't imagine. Lakshmi is like so beautiful. There's no woman in this world compares. Or no Bill Gates, the wealth he has is like can't even buy. All the wealth of Bill Gates can't even buy one house in Vaikuntha. He couldn't afford to buy even one house in Vaikuntha. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, you said that once you go to Godhead, you're not gonna come back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But how do we come back here? I mean, we are eternal, so we were there, and we can actually get bad up there in the Vaikuntha again, and then we have to come back here as well. Is that how it works, or it's
Well,
not
we
permanent?
don't say come back here. We say come down.
Come down, sorry.
Padantido means fall down.
Fall down.
You fall down. So, but yeah, once you go back there, means because we came from there. That's why we say go back there, because you've already been there. So going back to there. But you don't say, why have we come back to here? Because
Come down here, okay.
yeah, you come down here. So yeah, we originally we were there, and we've come here. How is because free choice, because God has unlimited free choice. We're part of God, so we have minute free choice. So with that choice means you have some independence. So God is supremely independent, Swarat. So we also, with that choice, if we want to, we can have a go at being independent. You could be joining in Krishna's dancing with the gopis in the spiritual world, and just the thought comes in your mind. I wonder what it would be like to be in the center of this dance, to be in Krishna's position. As soon as you think like that, Hadanchido,
because
that
we
is
want,
your downfall. As soon as you
because
think like that.
because we
I
want.
wonder what it would be like to be in Krishna's position. One time, Prabhupada, a servant, one of his disciples asked him that, and no, it wasn't one of his disciples. It was just a Indian man asked him, how did we end up coming here if the spiritual world's so good and everything like that? So he said, just imagine you are the servant of Mr. Birla. Do you know who Mr. Birla is? You know, Birla family is super rich family in India, right? Birla family. Even 50 years ago when Prabhupada was there, Birla was, so rich industrialist. So he said, just imagine you're a servant of Mr. Birla. You have everything that Birla has, you have. I mean, you live in Birla's house. You eat Birla's food. You drive in Birla's car. The only difference is Birla is the boss and you are the servant. But the opulences are the same. But you could be thinking, what would it be like to occupy Birla's seat? And as soon as you do that in the spiritual world, you're down. You can't take Krishna's position. There's only one God in the spiritual world. There's not 2 or 3 or 10 or 100. Everyone else is a servant. As soon as a servant thinks, well, what would it be like to be the master? Then Krishna has to create another illusory world where you can experience what it's like to be the master. So you have a master of Australia, or if you're not that, then you're a master of the company. If you're not that, you're a master of the sports team. If you're not, then you're a master of a family. If you're not that, then you're a master of a dog. At least be the master of a dog, master of something. So that's the thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So even though, think, well, God, the spiritual world's so much better than here, then why the hell did we come here? But that's how, because of that free choice, that independence, just that thought, of that we want to try out Chris's position. And that's there because free choice is there, independence is there. You don't have to serve.
And
Yeah.
probably, I mean, once you go there, that means you have learned your lesson, so you won't be doing that mistake
Yeah,
again.
so then how is it that we can't come back to the material world? Because Krishna says that in many places in the Bhagavad Gita, that one never again comes to the material world. So how does that happen? Prabhupada explained it once in a lecture, that when you go back to the spiritual world, so you were originally in the spiritual world, the soul, it falls down to the material world, is here for a long, long, long time. It's called an anardi karma phale. So we have been experiencing the fruits of our karma, so anadis, without beginning. Means, you can't trace out the beginning. There was a beginning, but you can't find out when you first came to the material world. No one can. It was such a long time ago. It was almost without beginning. Therefore, the soul in the material is called Nitya Bada. Nitya means eternal, Bada means bound up or conditioned. But it's not eternal in the sense of normally what eternal means, no beginning, but eternal in the sense of you can't find out when it began, when you came here. It was such a long time ago. But in terms of our being an eternal soul, it's like this long that you're in the material world. It's like nothing, because we're eternal. So even though you're in the, say you're in the souls in the material world for 10 million lifetimes. What's 10 million lifetimes compared to eternity?
A fraction.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So the soul comes down. We reawaken, we suffer, we reawaken get devotees association, we reawaken our Krishna consciousness, go back to the spiritual world, we're back to enjoying anything there and serving Krishna. But Prabhupada mentions we have one added thing in our consciousness that we didn't have before we first came, and is that Krishna arranges. There's some vague, like dream-like memory that there's this place called the material world, which is really bad, really miserable, and I don't want to go there again. So there's just something in the back of the mind of the soul that's returned to the spiritual world that's just some bad taste, leaves like a bad taste in the mouth, right? So there's just some bad taste, like I'm not going to make that choice again. So that choice, you won't make that choice again. However, Prabhupada did say another time that it is possible. It is possible for a soul to come back again to the material world. However, it's very unlikely. It's very unlikely because of that memory is there. Then look, there's a saying, right? Once burnt, twice shy. The parents always say to their kid, don't touch the hot stove, don't touch it. But the kid will touch it. But will they touch it a second time? No, because once they touched it the first time, then they remember that touching a stove means pain, so, but before you touched it the first time, there's a good probability then you're probably going to touch it like that. So
That's very nice analogy. Yeah, the first time we didn't touch it, we said come, and then when you touch it, when you hear, basically, then you realize, and so that makes sense.
So Prabhupada said that Krishna gives us just a small memory. It's not like in our face, because that would disturb our enjoyment there, but just the slight, like you've got a vague memory of a bad dream you had, but it's not very clear, but you remember, you had a really bad dream and I don't want to go back to that dream again, so it was a bad space. So like that. So then you won't misuse the free choice again. Like that. So, but however, Prabhupada didn't talk much about it, like how we came to the material world, because he said it's not important. If you're in the prison, is it important how you got into the prison? Or is it important how to get out of the prison? Which is more?
Get out, stay out.
Yeah, who cares about how I got in? I just care about how to get out. So
and how to stay out. So if you want to stay out, you have to know how you got in so that you don't do that again.
Yeah, so you got to be an honest citizen, follow the rules. So that's Dharma, right? You got to follow the law of God. So do what he wants. So that's the thing. But Prabhupada talked a lot more about how to get out of the prison. Then he didn't say much about how we got into the prison. Because like you said, it's not important. You don't want to be thinking too much about how you got here, but you should be thinking a lot about how to get out. Prabhupada's so good. He's too good. And that's why I surrendered my life to him. Because I was so ignorant. And he's just brilliant. He's answered all my questions. All glories to Prabhupada. He's amazing.
But also he told the Vedas, which was coming from God himself. isn't it? I mean, that's what Prabhupada did. He just put it in terms that we will understand.
Yeah. He was so ignorant, but he's presented in the very complex Vedas in a way that even fools like us can understand. I mean, just so clear the way he speaks. It just goes right into the heart. Oh, it's just, oh my God. It just penetrates all the ignorance and the lust and the greed and the anger and the ego and the pride. And that's amazing. Prabhupada's a very special personality. And the good news is, Prabhupada said that there is a ISKCON in the spiritual world. It means
Oh,
he's got a whole association there in Vaikuntha in the spiritual world, so we can continue associating with him, serving him in the spiritual world. So we're just waiting for the time to come and we can go back to, we say go back to Godhead, but go back to Prabhupada.
mm,
Because it said the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple is eternal. That's another very interesting thing to understand. The relationship between this spiritual master and the disciple is eternal. So we have, our relationship continues in the spiritual world, which is wonderful. And that makes tolerating all this craziness of the material world easier, because we're just thinking about that. We're not thinking about COVID and stuff like that. We're thinking about, I'm gonna be back with Prabhupada soon. I'm gonna be back with Prabhupada, with Krishna. And we're gonna be, he's gonna be teaching me there, how to serve Krishna. Prabhupada's going to be teaching me how to serve Krishna in the spiritual world, how to make garlands for Krishna and cook for Krishna, and be playing with the cows with Krishna and Prabhupada and in whatever form it is like that. So who cares about all this stuff that's going on? We don't care. It's
Very
just...
nice. Very nice. Oh, it's too
Anyway,
big
we've
for
gone over
you.
time.